Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Billy. I really appreciate that. And thank you all for being at Southbound. This is a big deal for us at Rev Partners to host you all at the beautiful Coca-Cola Roxy. So I really appreciate everyone here in the audience. Today, I'm going to talk to you about creating a scalable operating system for go-to-market teams. So the desired end state is to really how to approach you as the go-to-market leader to empower your teams to operate efficiently and effectively with a clear operating system to help you guys grow your business strategically. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself. I'm currently the director of product and head of playbooks teams at Rev Partners, and so that means that I lead product development, training, and delivery content, and I'm spoken at the HubSpot conference, now the Unbound conference, and then I'm the RevOps dean of the Pavilion Sales and Marketing community. I'm one of the original first 10 RPers, so that means I've been on Rev Partners for almost 5 years now, and I started out client-facing. I was a revenue operations strategist when I first started, so I have been client-facing for over 1,000 days, and so I've worked with a ton of you, either in past relationships with Rev Partners or people just like you and kind of the problems that you guys have. I've worked in Rev Partners or revenue operations for over 12 years now, and so all the problems that you're facing, either past, present, and future, I've been able to be on the ground level and tactically help you guys achieve those goals to better grow your business. So again, thank you so much for being at Southbound. On behalf of the Rev Partners teams and all the folks you see wearing those light blue shirts, we're really, really happy for you to be here. This is the biggest and best Southbound that we've ever had. I've been at all 3 Southbounds, starting in 2024 and then 2025. So I'm going to take you back to Southbound last year, 2025. It was going to be double as big as the first one. It was Atlanta Tech Village, and about 20 RPers were able to come on site and actually run the show. And so we're all getting excited. We're a fully remote company. We don't get to interact with each other very, very often. And so we're all trying to figure out how are we going to make an impact at the event. So me personally, I was really curious about what my anticipated role was going to be. Maybe I thought I was going to be, wrong side. Maybe I thought I was going to be the MC. Obviously, Billy does a fantastic job, so that was quite ambitious of me thinking that I would be the MC. But, you got to shoot big to see where you land. After that, I was thinking that maybe I'd be a green room speaker for green room greeter for the speakers. Maybe I'd talk to them, get them a little comfortable, and just make sure I could provide a great guest experience for the speakers. If I didn't quite get that role, I was thinking, surely I could be at the sales booth. I know RP's product better than almost anyone. I've been client-facing, I work internal-facing, I developed some real products. So at minimum, I thought I'd be at the sales booth, and then as a last resort, maybe, just maybe, they'd let me do guest experience and check-ins. Maybe able to greet you all when you enter the venue, and put on a smiling face and check you all in. And so as we're getting closer to Southbound, we have like a company meeting over Zoom, where all 20 of us get together, and it's kind of exciting. You get to figure out what your role would be and how you're going to impact the event. And so, we have the event. Colt, our amazing marketing manager, is running through everyone's roles, and you kind of get on the list in the spreadsheet, and it just keeps going and going and going, and all the roles I said had already been filled. So at the very, very bottom of the spreadsheet was my role, the junior parking strategist. And so you can imagine my excitement and kind of my concern about why I was given that role. I travel in, I don't get to see my teammates very often, we're all remote employees, and so at an on-site event, I was given literally the only role that was off-site, furthest away from the action. But I had to make a decision, right? I want to support the company, I love Rev Partners, and I want to be part of the successful event. And so my decision was I was going to be the best parking strategist there ever was. And so using my experience in RevOps and different things in business over the last 10 or 15 years, I decided to apply those RevOps principles to this parking strategist role. So just like you guys face problems in your businesses on a day-to-day basis, I also had a problem. Our parking lot wasn't big enough for all the guests that said they were going to arrive. We had a limited parking lot, and the last thing you want is someone to show up to an event and they've got nowhere to park. So I had to quickly come up with a solution. I had to look at my RevOps experience to figure out how can I make this a seamless parking experience for our guests. So I counted every single parking spot in that garage, went up and down all 4 floors. I figured out how many parking spots were already filled, and I had to forecast, based on the empty spots left, when that parking lot would be full. So I had to look ahead and figure out the exact time the parking lot would be full, because then we would send out an email to all the guests to transition them to the auxiliary parking lot. So I had the autonomy to take action, send that email out, and provide a great parking experience for our customers. Now the result is, there was no parking issues that I'm aware of. Everyone got there safely and securely. If you did come to the event last year, you did have a parking issue. I do apologize. I did try my best. But the point here is that you guys are facing problems in your business every day, but how can you apply all these problem-solving strategies to other areas of your business and other areas of your personal life? So as you go through, or as I go through the next part of this presentation, I want you to start thinking about who is the parking strategist in your business? Who is the one keeping a pulse on all of the metrics, forecasting when a change needs to be made, and actually having the autonomy to make the change to solve that business problem? And if you don't have a parking strategist, can you come up with one? It might not be you, it might be someone on your team, it might be a partner that you partner with, but you need someone that kind of fills that parking strategist role to really ensure that your go-to-market teams are aligned and you're really hitting those goals. So over all the years, we see a lot of problems that go-to-market leaders face. They come to us saying their HubSpot's broken, their go-to-market's broken, they need more leads, they need to close bigger deals. All of these problems can really get distilled down into a couple key categories. So across hundreds of customer engagements that we've run, we really have figured out that if you kind of summarize a lot of these problems that you all face in this room, it really comes down to two things, and we call these growth blockers. These growth blockers are visibility and activation, right? Every company wants sustainable revenue growth, but these growth blockers impede that. So let's start with visibility. If you don't know what's working or what's not working, you can't act on it. And so for me, when I was a parking strategist, for my visibility was I had to figure out how many parking spots were in the entire parking garage, how many were currently occupied, and how many were open. I had to have that visibility so I could communicate that to my team. So visibility is part one, and I'm sure you have a lot of reporting and your CRM or other software tools that create that visibility for you. But the second is activation. I think activation often gets overlooked because you have the reports, of course you're gonna act on it, but if you don't have a process for actually taking those insights and turning them into action, enabling your team to do so, a lot of these problems don't get solved. And so for me, that activation was forecasting the exact time to send that email and having the autonomy to send the email to all the Southbound attendees to make sure that they got to the right parking lot. And so when you combine this visibility and activation, you create clarity. And all of you leaders here, you need to create clarity to foster your business growth, right? Without visibility, business decisions are made with gut choices or with incorrect data, which obviously no one wants. But without activation, there is no process to actually act on that. There is no way to turn those business decisions into strategic alignment. And without clarity, the problems remain undiagnosed. So you combine clarity, you combine visibility, and activation, you come up with clarity, and of course with clarity, flags are raised early, action items are signed, and problems are solved. So Q2 just ended, or Q1 just ended, it's April 16th, and so we're already kind of into Q2, but I'm sure over the last week or two, you guys have kind of retroactively thought of Q1 and how you kind of guys ended up on all of your KPIs or all your goals. And so show of hands right here, let's start with some easy ones. Who knows their revenue goal attainment for Q1? This could be net new revenue, it could be new bookings, it could be net revenue retention, but whatever your North Star metric is, who knows that? Keep it up. Now let's break it down and go a little bit further up the funnel. Who had a deals created goal or a sales opportunity created goal, and you know that revenue attainment? If you don't, that's fine, just put your hand down. Okay, so you got deals created. What about inbound deals? And so deals can be created from a lot of go-to-market sources. You've got inbound, you've got outbound, you've got events, you've got partnerships, you've got community, maybe your product. And so how many of you know your inbound deal created goal achievement? Some more hands are still up, that's fantastic. And then one step further, what about your paid ad attainment? Right, a lot less hands right now. And so the point here is that how are you aligning every single person in your company from the CEO down to the individual contributor? The person that's running paid ads, they need to figure out a way to connect themselves to the inbound deal goal, the deal created goal, and ultimately the revenue goal. So by knowing this attainment, creating the visibility around it, your team is naturally going to take action. Now, let's think about Q2. So it's April 16th. We're already 18% through Q2. When you get back to your office on Monday, it'll already be 20%. So how are you pacing towards these goals? So a simple way to think about this is that let's say your deals created goal was 100 for Q2. If we're 18% through the quarter, 16 days, our pacing target should be 18, right? Now, if you're actually at 20 deals, your pacing to goal is 111%. So 16 days in, you're on track to hit that target. And so show of hands again. How many of you know pacing-wise, you're gonna hit your Q2 revenue goal? Maybe there hasn't been a ton of deals that have closed, but certainly some of them. But you're not comparing your goals 16 days in to what it's going to be at the end of Q2. So whether it's your deals created goal, your inbound deals created goal, or your paid ad goal, you need a live pulse to figure out how are you pacing to plan? Because if you get off track, if that green turns to yellow, that yellow turns to red, you need to figure out as a leader how to empower your team to act on it. And so you need a live pulse on all of your business KPIs that you can make strategic decisions. It's not that dissimilar from what I was doing in the parking lot. I had a live pulse on all the spots that were left. I forecasted when a decision had to be made, and then I was able to act on it. And so your roles, all of you in this room today, your role is really to provide clarity to your team. You need to understand how you are pacing towards key KPIs. If you are able to understand this, you can empower your team to raise those flags early. Hey, we're off track here. We need to right the ship in some way. Have the autonomy to actually take action, right? You have your teams that can work with you to actually take action and diagnose these problems. And of course, you want to course correct quickly. And so over the years, we found out the problems are around clarity, creating visibility and activation to create that clarity. And we really struggled with it ourselves internally at Rev Partners, and we were really struggling with how to communicate that to our customers, our partners. So we had to come up with some kind of solution to align the entire team to some kind of visual, some kind of framework, some kind of methodology that really aligned everyone to speak the same language and really play for the same team. And so if you think about the problems that you're facing right now, we're trying to come up with a solution, a framework that fits all businesses. And the solution that we came up with is called the revenue performance model. It's a complete lead to cash framework that tracks the entire customer journey, including retention, upsells, conversion rates, and all of that. So it's an entirely holistic lead to cash framework that applies to all businesses. So let's take a look at it. So we believe the revenue performance model is the key to unlocking your revenue growth. We've got a recurring revenue performance model, a usage-based revenue, also a non-recurring revenue. So every business model out there, you might have a combination of some, but you'll fit into one of those three key categories. Now I know this image is new to you and there's a lot going on, but if you take it step by step, you can kind of break it down a little bit. On the left-hand side is the traditional funnel. You go from leads, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, and within each part of the revenue performance model, you can track volume, the amount of marketing qualified leads, for example, in that category, and you can also track conversion rate. Conversion rate to the next phase of the revenue performance model, or conversion rate from the previous phase. Once you close a customer, you need to onboard them, then you hop over into the flywheel side. The flywheel side is all about recurring revenue and how to really get that exponential growth and grow your business. We all know that most of the revenue comes from recurring revenue if that's your business model. So how do you get people through the funnel and into the flywheel? So you start up at net new revenue, and you have different components once you have customers. You've got cross-sell revenue, you've got upgrades, you've got downgrades. You look to renew your customers. Of course, some of your customers will churn, but each of these also have volume metrics and conversion rates. And if you add all these together, your starting revenue and your ending revenue, which equals net revenue retention. And so how do you align the entire team on a visual that allows them to communicate and break down barriers? So for example, does your customer success team understand the key qualities of which customers are cross-selling to different products and services? If they do, that's great, but are they giving that information back to the marketing team so that they can market that product or service a little bit better on the website? How does every person in your company understand how they fit into the greater picture of a company strategy? Does every person know exactly which part of the revenue performance model they fit in? If they don't, it's very hard for them to communicate and figure out how they roll up to not only just their individual team, but how they impact others on their team. So let's break down the revenue performance model a little bit. So what is it? It's a comprehensive revenue-centric model that is both holistic and functional. The best part is it can be deployed in your CRM. We use HubSpot, a Rev partner, but whatever CRM you use, it can be deployed there. It will naturally highlight key areas of your business that you need to focus on and work on and collaborate as a team to fix. And it does apply to all businesses. It doesn't matter the industry, the size of your business, your go-to-market motions, your business model. It does apply to all businesses. Each one of you can implement a revenue performance model within your business. So why should you all care? What does it unlock? Well, it unlocks that full functional alignment. You want to align the funnel to the flywheel. And doing that increases your visibility. If you increase visibility, whether it's CRM reporting or other reporting, any kind of visibility you have on kind of how your business is doing, it creates that accurate data that turn into actionable insights. And the last, maybe the most important thing is that implementing the RPM enforces a source of truth. So for a lot of companies, a source of truth is your CRM. But if you don't have that source of truth, you're making gut decisions based on incorrect data. So let's walk through what happened at RevPartners specifically before we implemented the RPM and then afterwards. So before, the only goal we tracked was revenue. What was our net new revenue target? And what was our goal attainment for that? And we only found out once per quarter. As soon as the quarter ended, we had one all-hands meeting, and Brendan would say, we hit 82% of our net new target, or 92%, or 102%. Whatever it was, that was the only metric we tracked, and we got to hear about it once per quarter. We didn't have goals in our CRM. We didn't have an operating system or ability to create goals or secondary and primary KPIs. And so because of that, we had no second or third layer data, and so we were very unclear on how we all connected to each other. In RevOps, I barely knew how I was able to influence marketing and sales. Certainly, marketing and customer success were never aligned on kind of the same strategies and goals. And then there was no alignment on terminology. The RPM was just an acronym that we kind of made up. But once we made it up and we folded in with all these key volume metrics and conversion metrics and different terms around what is a cross-sell, what is an upgrade, what is a downgrade, the entire company now has this terminology and a visual to align to. So what's the after effect? Well, now we have goals for all of our go-to-market KPIs. Each of these is tracked pacing to date. They auto-update every single day. We review them with the team each week. So as a leadership team, we review them. As departments, we review them. And individuals, we review them in our one-on-one. How is our individual metric pacing to plan, and how does that roll up to different company strategy? And then finally, these insights that we get from this data, we turn those into our quarterly objectives. So we have this constant feedback loop on where we're winning, where we're losing, where we need to double down, where we need to change course. And we use all that information to turn that into our company strategy. Well, look, I realize that things are moving as fast as ever. So why now? The theme of Southbound is timeless, key, and timely. Why is the RPM timely? Why is it important to implement something like this now? Why is a new framework going to help my business? And is it timely? Am I going to have to redo this and re-implement something new in 1 year or 2 years? I know a lot of you are scared about transitioning to a different software platform or working with a different partner. What if I have to do this again in a year or again in 2 years? Isn't that all time wasted? So the reason it's timeless and timely is that in this era of AI, things are moving faster than ever. And that puts more pressure on you all. You need to know your business better than you've ever had before. You've got lower budgets, you've got more scrutiny, and you have less full-time employees. You are being asked to do more with less. It's a fact. Your recs are going down, you're not hiring as fast as you used to. You're trying to replace either human functions or business functions with AI, and you as a leader need to know your business at a tactical level so that you can go ahead and help grow those areas. So with more scrutiny, lower budget, and less time full-time employees, you don't have time to get this wrong. In the past, you could get away with not knowing data on a very granular level, but not anymore. And so we've tried AI, I know you all have, but having a firm foundation and an operating system that really aligns your team with exactly what they're trying to achieve with AI is super important. I got this email a few weeks ago, and after the first sentence, I noticed 3 problems with it. It was grammatically incorrect to start with. It was the wrong persona that it was targeting. And the problem was completely different from what I was actually feeling. It wasn't a pain point of mine. The pain point is, are your GTM processes connected? I literally do that. That's my job. That is RevPartners' job. We do that for our customers. If anyone's GTM processes are connected, it would be mine. And so now the reputation of this brand after this first sentence has been destroyed. They don't know me, they don't know my company, and they don't know my pain points. And so you can go out there, you can blast a bunch of emails, you can use a lot of these tools out here. Clay and HubSpot are fantastic with AI. But if you don't have a firm foundation exactly who your customer is and exactly how to operate and actually deploy these plays, it's really not gonna work. And going back, we've experienced the pain too. This is a real report from our HubSpot CRM, and this is our deals created for 2 years, so 8 calendar quarters. You'll see there's one outlier at 153, I think, But basically for 2 straight years, we were stuck from 103 deals to 125 deals, more or less, per quarter. We couldn't figure it out. Our revenue kind of stagnated, our deals stagnated, and a lot of our graphs will take straight lines instead of up and to the right. So we had to figure out how to solve this, because we needed to solve this for our customers. So after thinking through it a lot, we had to come up with this solution, a framework that we can align on, not only for ourselves internally, but for our customers. And of course, we can't align our customers yet until we align on it ourselves. So our frustration really is what inspired the action to create the revenue performance model, connect the funnel with the flywheel, and make sure every single person at the company knew exactly how they impacted our revenue goal. And so when we were able to do that, when we were aligning the team, when this became adopted internally, our friction became a common language. And so this is the exact same deal creator report, except it has the last 5 quarters. And so where that little rocket ship is, that's the last quarter of the previous report. So after implementing the revenue performance model, we go from 107 deals to 142 to 176 to 200. And then last quarter, we had our biggest deal creation quarter in company history at 206. And so in less than a year, we went from 107 to 200. We almost doubled this. And so how do you think about, doubling some kind of thing that's been stagnating for 2 years? And the problem was we were misaligned. Every person at every business has strategic thinkers and then operators. Leaders and operators, strategists versus technicians. And so leaders are thinking strategically, 3 months down the road, 3 years down the road. But operators are thinking much more tactically, 3 days down the road, maybe 3 hours down the road. And so they were misaligned. Leaders wanted to forecast the vision in the future. Tactical people, operators, they said, I have problems right now, I need to fix today. But if you track your primary KPIs, whatever those are, for the pacing to goal, and every single day you review these as a team, you have a shared vision and alignment. Strategic people know exactly how we're pacing, they can forecast to the future, where tactical folks know that if something gets off track, they can diagnose it quickly and try to course correct. And so we created a visual scorecard to create this clarity and alignment that turned visibility into action. The visibility inspired the action, the RPM created a shared understanding. The biggest thing it unlocked for us was it answered the why. We were now able to say why we were ahead, why we were on track, why we were behind. And it wasn't just the CEO, it wasn't just the functional leader in the department. All the employees at Rev Partners knew exactly why we were winning, why we were losing, and where in the revenue performance model that they could impact. And so after a while, we said, this is not a scalable process for us. A lot of this was hidden behind spreadsheets. Myself or someone else on my team had to update them manually every Monday morning. It was pretty cumbersome, and it took us a while to implement it for ourselves. And so it was very hard to try to implement this for our customers. They have their own operating system, they have their own performance model, and so we had to build a scalable solution that could actually impact you all in the room. And so we have built a few solutions today that I'm very excited to share with you. These solutions are aimed at implementing the revenue performance model to really impact your revenue growth. The first solution is called the Bluff software. This is a software application that helps you implement the RPM into your business. What does Bluff mean? It means bottom line up front. Any of our customers here, prospects, or people that have interacted with Rev Partners, they know that Bluff is core to our company culture. In fact, we have what we call the RP declaration, or the RP way, the Rev Partners way. And it says an RPer will bluff, recap, format, and give feedback to those who don't. So every Monday morning, we go through our company declaration, and we make sure that every person at the company knows exactly what we care about as a team. Our customers want the bluff. They want the bottom line up front. We want the bluff. We want the bottom line, because we need to go act and turn our business. So while the name might sound a little silly to you, it is so ingrained into our company culture that we really believe that the Bluff software can unlock implementing the RPM into your business. So there are several pain points that we hope this alleviates. The first is the CRM. CRM is fantastic. I've been working on CRM for 15 years. I've created thousands of reports, but there's a limitation on those reports. CRM reports are built for a certain function. It's hard to create custom calculations. You can't track goals to pacing the plan, and so it's limited. Spreadsheets. I know a lot of you out there operate on spreadsheets. It's a necessity. We've done it too. Spreadsheet's customizable, but it's manual and it's prone to data errors. How do you get out of the spreadsheet and into a system? Lack of goals. Some of you have goals for all your go-to-market motions and all your primary KPIs, but many of you don't. How are you able to be accountable to create these goals so that you can actually track goal attainment? I know you all track your revenue goal attainment, at least some of you in the room, but how many of you tracking goal attainment for those second and third layer KPIs? Leadership meetings, board meetings, creating those slide decks, creating those, all that prep, it takes time, it takes resources. What if there was a way for board directors to actually have a live update on exactly how your company was doing, right? I think most importantly, company-wide visibility. How does every single person out in your company have the visibility that they need so that they understand how to impact your mission, your goal, and ultimately your revenue? And so here's a quick demonstration of creating a goal. You go to the top, you name your goal, you select the time period you want your goal in, you select the metric that we're going to track against, you go ahead and add the target value for that time period, you save the goal, and instantly you know how you're pacing. 81% to plan, this is in the yellow. So it takes 15 seconds to set up and 2 seconds to diagnose. Now this is, of course, is just one example, but if you have 50 of these, if each functional leader has a similar dashboard, now you're able to really track things as they come up and really course correct and diagnose action. So really the goal of this software application, it's really designed to highlight your performance to play in real time. So we have customizable metric calculations that you can't do natively in your CRM. We have pacing to goal percentages for all your goals. We have goal attainment heat maps, and it does provide second and third level data. But the thing I hope it unlocks for all of you, most specifically, is what I call the 3-second rule. You don't want to scroll through a dashboard with 25 reports to figure out what's going on. You should be able to interpret how your business is doing within 3 seconds. So here we have an example here, the card on the right. Within 3 seconds just now, each of you can interpret exactly how we're doing. So this is just one goal, but you can see the gray bar is ahead of the progress indicator. You see we're 111% to our pacing plan, and you see our status is on track. So within 3 seconds, you know exactly how you're doing for that particular part of your business. And if you extrapolate that, 10 goals, 20 goals, 30 goals, you're not worried about hours of data insights and trying to comb through data. You're not asking someone how we're doing. It's all right there. So present performance is extremely important, but past performance indicates future performance. So let's look at goal attainment in the past. On the top here, we have 4 quarters of data, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And on the left-hand side on the rows are all of our primary KPIs. So our 7 key KPIs, from leads down to net new revenue. It's extremely easy to see how we're doing and how we're performing. If you go to the third row down, deals created, I just showed you the data in those charts. Wasn't super easy to interpret. Did we hit goal? Did we not hit goal? But here you can see 78% in Q1, 81% in Q2, 112% in Q3, and 126% in Q4. If you go row by row, left to right, you can see how that goal attainment for that KPI is either increasing or decreasing. You can also look at this vertically. You can compare Q2 to Q3. Which quarter did we do better in, Q2 or Q3? Right, Q3, it's pretty obvious. There's a lot more green there. And so looking at 28 KPIs essentially and their goal attainment in one view is highly impactful. You're looking horizontally to see how one metric changed over time, and you're looking vertically to see as a company how we perform. And so it's super simple, it's an easy visual, but it's tracking your past performance, your current performance, and setting up that future performance. But we also know that systems don't work without people, right? People are very integral to your business, and so it doesn't matter if you have a software platform, it doesn't matter if you get on stage like me and kind of preach the RPM, how are you actually going to implement it? Implementing an operating system is incredibly hard. I've been trying to do it for the last 5 years, and every single day there's a challenge. There's lack of alignment. What are we shooting towards? Why are we doing this? What's the common terminology? How do we act about this? Standardization across what metrics are we tracking? What are our goals? How do we communicate the updates? Agility if something's a little bit off track. How do we course correct? How do we know if it's off track? Are we even agile enough as a business to actually make actions mid-quarter? And then adoption, probably the hardest one. Who's giving the updates? Who's training the team? Who is enabling new team members? Who's the one communicating this process across your entire team? And so we realize this is very difficult, and we want you to be able to implement your own revenue performance model, your own operating system as go-to-market leaders. So we want to train the current and future go-to-market leaders, and so we're also very excited to announce our Revenue Performance Accelerator. This is an online training platform that covers end-to-end all of the key building blocks that you need to actually enable this for your business. Now, these might not be applicable for you, but they will be applicable for someone on your team. How do you train folks on your team in certain roles within an organization to apply a lot of these principles and strategies to actually help you grow and align your business? Now, every single one of you today will get free access to one of the RPX courses. We have 4 courses currently. We've got revenue performance modeling. This dives deep into the RPM, goes through all the different specifics and layers of it, and it describes how you implement it for your company. We also have RevOps fundamentals. So how does your business model and go-to-market motions, how do they intersect in revenue operations to actually affect revenue? Our AI readiness for go-to-market teams. We talked with AI a lot. I get told to do AI types of actions, but are you ready for it? How do you come up with use cases that are AI enabled? How do you stack rank those based on your current capabilities? And how do you create a 90-day roadmap on how you can actually implement AI throughout your company? That course goes through all of that. And then lastly, RevOps 201. This is around how to implement a revenue engine diagnostic for your own business so you can see how connected your go-to-market sources are. And so in closing here, talked about visibility a lot. The Bluff software and RPX both give visibility. This is the activation part. I want all of you to scan that QR code on your badge right now and enroll in one of these free RPX courses. If you scan that QR code right on your badge, the second one down after the agenda will say claim your free RPX course. You'll be able to enroll in one of the 4 courses, and you'll be asked if you want to join the waitlist. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you say no, but if you're curious about the developments of the Bluff software going forward and if you might be a good customer for it, just select yes. I'm not going to email you tomorrow, but over the course of the next few months, you might get some updates on kind of how we're doing. So in closing, we want to thank you all for being at Southbound. We want you to be able to train yourself or your business or someone on your team to really enable them to be the best version of themselves. And when you're going to lunch right now, if you're walking back to your car later today, I want you to think about, do you have a parking attendant within your business? And if you don't, how is that affecting your revenue growth? Thank you all, I appreciate it.